The stream is about to begin.
All right, my Right Ivy Right pupils, I got a good one for you. So we're going to talk about the three-act structure in which plays are right. So this is a heuristic that so many playwrights have used throughout the ages, going back to like even Shakespeare. So what we're going to do in this is talk about the three-act structure, the setup, the confrontation, the resolution, and how to weave it all together to get a really dynamic college personal statement on paper for you. So strap in, sit tight, stay tuned. I'll walk you through the whole thing. I have an exemplar that is phenomenal that uses this heuristic from start to finish. All right, my Right Ivy Right pupils. One thing that I always hearken to in my videos is the concept of the mind's eye of the reader. In an essence, your 650 words are like a book. They're like a movie. They are like a play. As your reader reads your 650 words, they are capturing you in deep layers of characterization. They're paying attention to your setting, your character, how the events unfold. You're coming alive in the mind's eye. So you want to be very careful with your 650 words in terms of what you capture, right? The focus should be you, the characterization and development of you over time. So don't get, in the weeds of talking about events and extraneous things. It needs to be on you. And this is where we get into narrative elements. You got to be a good storyteller in order to capture your sense of self, like your quintessential self. So be very mindful as to how you are rolling film, right? What do you want to be captured in the mind's eye of the reader when they get to the end of your 650 words? So earlier I alluded to a heuristic that we're going to use in this particular exemplar called the three-act structure. So a lot of playwrights will write plays that contain three acts, and it is the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. And what they do is they weave these three components together to get to the main thematic thrust of the piece, right, in terms of the action. And so many playwrights have done this throughout the test of time. You can use the heuristic as well for your 650 words. And if you are able to pull the strings of it, you should come out with a real banger. So a couple of preliminary things before we jump in and look at the exemplar. Note his jaw-dropping opening line. Right with your first words, you want to captivate and capture your audience's attention. So make sure you drop a jaw and then be authentically different. So many kids write about mundane, vanilla things like their heroism in sports, their college tours, why their grades suffered their sophomore year, right? So many kids are doing that, and you got to think competitively, right? It's you against all the other applicants. What are you going to do to stand out? The other thing, too, in terms of, balancing this heuristic here of the three acts is that you want to give equal treatment to all three. One shouldn't be out of kilter with the other, right? One shouldn't predominate. So you want to give equal balance to all three of the narratives. And I've said this in many of my videos before. On average, it takes about 2 minutes and 47 seconds to read 650 words. So let's make sure that you have an Oscar-nominated performance here, that you really stand out on paper and you awe your audience. All right, enough of me bloviating into the air, into the ether. Let's say action. Let's say roll film and take a look at this student's opening paragraph. Here it is. Slowly drawing from a Cuban cigar precariously dangling from his sloped lower lip, even a clouder of polydactyl cats lurking at his heels, my uncle embodies his inner Ernest Hemingway every Christmas morning as he doles out presents one by one. So this is Act 1, right? The focus on the uncle. We have this undercurrent of Hemingway, Christmas, right? And we're going to riff on that for a little bit. So that's Act 1. Let's go to the next few paragraphs here. Seeped by the heavy burden of being an awkward and clumsy 13-year-old, he watched with wonder as I opened a bulky Wayfarer box. Plates. My uncle gave me a complete table set of dinnerware. So this is Act 2, right? So we're going to riff Act 1 and Act 2 together and weave it together before we introduce Act C. So it goes on. But the card said something I did not quite understand at the time. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, some are strong at the broken places. Ta-da! That's a world-famous quote by Hemingway, right? So most readers would pick up on that. So A and B are playing with each other here. They're holding hands. They're conversating with each other. So if we go on to the next few paragraphs, and again, something you should note, white space in personal narrative writing is very different than the white space in an academic paper. So make sure you take advantage of your syntactical maneuvers and do some nifty things with your paragraphing, because you can get that white space to speak. In his front blue jean pocket, he had 2 fat bottles of Golden Boss super glue. He put one in my hand, and then he hurled the first plate at the fireplace as hard as he could. So you see, Act 1 and Act 2 are playing out together right here. That look on my face invited a wide smile to his coy grin as he smashed a second and a third. So one of the things I frequently talk about in my videos is the idea that you have to have very active verbs and very active adjectives. The other thing too is you want to have a fair amount of tier 2 level vocab, and all I mean by that is SAT level caliber words. Note that this student is not gooning out. They don't sound overly pedantic or bookish, right? Real playful verbs and adjectives, but elevated. We move on to a longer paragraph. This was my first foray into the world of kintsugi. All right, we just introduced Act C, Act 3, a Japanese art form of repairing broken pottery or ceramics by using gold to highlight the cracks rather than hiding them. It's a philosophy that embraces the history and imperfections of an object, viewing it as more beautiful for having been broken and repaired. So Act 3 here can tie really nicely into Act 2 as she talks about transforming herself over time, how she fixed and repaired her broken pieces, right? So Act 1, 2, and 3 are going to interface with each other throughout the rest of this. While my uncle may have an uncanny physical likeness to Hemingway, his love of metaphor stands in stark contrast. So you can see here, right? 1, 2, and 3, all acts just being fleshed out together. Weave them together. All right, big paragraph here. Hemingway's iceberg theory suggests that writers should only reveal the tip of the iceberg, the surface level elements of a story, while leaving the bulk of the meaning and emotion, the underwater part of the iceberg, for the reader to interpret. This technique relies on suggestion and implication rather than explicit explanation, allowing the reader to actively engage with the story and create their own understanding. So again, I just keep hearkening back to this. As you're using this heuristic, right, of combining 3 acts together, give them equal treatment, and you can just oscillate back and forth between the 3. So when my uncle equipped my hand with a plate and forced my elbow to extend, I did not at the time understand the implications of the lesson. But he knew that I forgot my lines in the school play. He knew that I got my first ever after-school detention for not submitting my math homework on time. So we're connecting, the thread here back to Act 2, right? Focus on the kid. And you should focus on yourself more than events. He knew that I got a C- on the subsequent exam. He knew that my head was dragging because I did not earn first chair in the orchestra. Oh, the things he knew. That I wanted to quit ballet, that my pet hamster died just 2 weeks ago, that my friend group was splintering, that I did not know how to occupy the liminal space of having one foot still in childhood and the other in the confusing world of becoming a young adult. So you can see here, if you're going to use this heuristic, the focus really needs to be on the writer, on the character. So even though you have events like this plate throwing, the focus needs to be more on the student, on the character, than the actual event. With the fifth plate, I made that thing shatter into a million pieces. And by the 12th, he said my knuckleball rivaled that of the likes of a Nolan Ryan in his prime. And then the gluing commenced. Gold lines putting all the pieces back together. He went on to tell me the essence of kaizen, another Japanese concept that finds oneself creating continuous improvement based on the idea that small, ongoing positive changes can reap significant improvements. The entire iceberg was coming into picture. So you drop something, you run away, you go pick it up later on. Drop something new, run away, go pick it up later on, right? That's what 3 acts do. And ikigai, a reason for being or something that makes life worth living. It's about finding your purpose and a sense of fulfillment through activities that align with your passions, strengths, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Essentially, it's about discovering what gives your life meaning and joy. All right, so we're going to bring everything back together here, right? Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 are all going to culminate in this conclusion here, right? This climactic conclusion. From this fateful Christmas morning, I glued the pieces of myself back together even better than the potter's first take, right? So we have this metaphor here where A and B, or Act 1 and Act 2, come together. And just this past Christmas, my uncle, with more cats at his heels and a soggier cigar, presented another iceberg, a dead-end street sign he conveniently stole from the county highway department. So look how in this, you often end where you begin. So check this out. We started with Hemingway. We're going to end with Hemingway. He placed a bumper sticker on it that read, "There's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self." And just in case the reader doesn't get it, they added a parenthesis here. You guessed it, further embodiment of his inner Hemingway, right? Just in case they don't understand that the quote is coming from Hemingway. All right, that is 3 acts in one college personal statement. I really encourage you guys to try that out. It adds a layer of nuance and sophistication that most college personal statements that I read don't contain. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop me a line at writedivywrite@gmail.com. Also note that I'm more than happy to be a study buddy with you along this process. I've been teaching the college personal statement for 25 years. I've worked in some capacity, either working college admissions directly. I've been a high school English teacher and college professor for 25 years, and we do this college personal statement stuff all the time. So I've owned my own boutique and have worked for some prestigious boutiques in the past as well that only hire Ivy League graduates, which I am. So if you're looking to get into really competitive schools, I've been there, done that myself, and can be of a great assistance to you to help you make your dreams come true. So that's it from here. I'm hoping you found that useful. I will keep more coming soon. Be well.